Are you an aspiring creative in entertainment, business, fashion, design, or the arts? Do you want to elevate your creative passion project to the next level? Then this show is for you. Whether you want a career in television, film, radio, literature, music, or beyond, Creative Breakthrough will show you how to take your dreams and turn them into reality. This show will not only leave you feeling motivated and inspired, but also provide you real-life tools to pursue the creative journey you have always wanted. I'm your host, creative coach, and chicken wing lover, Shireen Kassab, aka the Funny Brown Girl. Yes, I have an unhealthy obsession with chicken wings. Now, get ready to flex your creative muscle. Youre Diaz is the definition of hard work, grit, and hustle. A former news anchor and TV reporter, today she's known as Lady Diaz, an on-air radio personality on Orlando's #1 radio show, Johnny's House. Last year, Youre decided to pursue her passion for feminism and women's issues by starting a nonprofit and a podcast called Face of a Feminist. Youre shares with us her story, including what it means to hustle and how she's dealt with the haters, especially when it comes to her race and ethnicity. So what are we waiting for? Let's get into it. Youre, welcome to the guest chair.
Thank you. What's up, Shireen?
Not much. Thanks for joining us today. I'm so excited. Let's just get started from the beginning. I'd love to know when your creative journey began.
My journey probably started when I was like 8 years old because I knew right away when I was a kid that I wanted to be on the news. I wanted to be a reporter my whole life. So I spent my entire life doing whatever I had to do that would get me closer to that goal. So even in middle school, I was in the little news program, and then in high school, the same thing. I did the news, whatever journalism, newspaper classes, all of the extracurriculars. I was on the little local news in high school and just whatever I could do to gain more experience as a reporter and a journalist. And then, of course, in college at University of Florida, I took the journalism program. So it's been a whole lifetime leading up to achieving my goal of being on the news. And then after interning and doing the crazy things you have to do to get onto the news, I became a reporter. And I was probably, it was right after college. I probably sent out 100 tapes that I had acquired. I created my demo reel during my internship. So it's basically like just me doing fake reports that you get, while you're interning. I was interning at Channel 6, which is a CBS local Orlando affiliate. And I was interning there and I would just go out with the real reporters. And when they were done, I would ask the camera guy to let me do a fake one. And so that created my demo reel of fake reports. And then that is what I used to send out to actual employers and say, hey, look what I could maybe do. And that's how you get a job. And then you have to take whatever job you can take. So after sending out 100 tapes, and that costs a lot of money with the shipping. And back then it was VHS. I know.
Oh, wow. That's old school.
I know. So
even know what VHS is.
Exactly. They've probably heard of it. So the VHS I'm only 35, but I guess VHS was still around. And I sent out probably 100 and I got maybe 3 or 4 calls. And I took one in Monroe, Louisiana, which is a population of 30,000 people.
Wow. So where did the passion come from though? Where did the inspiration come from that you wanted to be a reporter?
I've always been the personality of, I feel this burning desire to right the wrongs of the world. And I've always felt that. And I've also always been incredibly inquisitive and driven. And I just always wanted to know the real answers to things. And I always was looking into deeper meanings to things that's what they say, but what is the reality? So I already had a reporter journalist, personality of the inquisitive side. But to be honest, my mom and dad separated when I was 7. So my mom was working full time, raising 4 kids by herself. And that means as the youngest of 4, I didn't have much time, much attention paid to me. Obviously, there's only so many hours in a day and she's working to put food on the table. So I realized at the end of the day, the 1 hour she would pay full attention to was the news. And so I would remember being like sitting on the floor watching the news with her, which I shouldn't have been watching at that age. It was like death and destruction. And she would give full attention. I mean, there was nothing that could be happening around her that would break her attention from the local news. And it was like, 5 or 6 o'clock every night. And I would see her watching it, and she would also be talking to herself. Like she would see something awful and she'd go, "Oh, Ave Maria, no lo creo," and she would just like have comments like, "I can't believe that, how disgusting," or whatever. And it was just, I wanted to be the woman on the TV so that she could pay attention to me like that, and just get her to respect me the way that she was respecting that newscast, and it worked. It worked. She was so proud when I got my first news job.
But you started doing the news, and then you didn't really like it. How long did it take you to realize that wasn't what you wanted to be doing?
2 years in Louisiana, it was the most brutal 2 years of my life. I made $19,000 a year. And so I barely ate, and my mom wasn't able to help me. So it was just very hard to get through those 2 years in complete poverty. It would be weird. I was on the air on live television 1 second, hair done, makeup done. Of course we have to do it ourselves, so it's not like that glamorous, but you look great, you're on TV, and you come home to no air conditioning in your apartment, type of complete poverty, complete, just very small means to survive on. So it was like the comparison of my life was very drastic,
I would never have guessed that. Is that how it is even today?
Yeah, even to this day, if you're an aspiring news anchor or news reporter, you have to take a very low paying job, and then you pay your dues I was lucky. I only had to pay my dues for 2 years. And then I got a job here in Orlando, which was about 120 market jump, because every city in America is judged by the Nielsen ratings by market size, meaning how much is the population. So I was 140 market in Louisiana, and then I went like to market number 30. So that never happens. Usually you have to go market 140, then market 100, then market 80, then market 60, and so you're moving all around America. But I was lucky. I like to say I was talented enough, but some people say I was just lucky. To go that quickly back to my hometown.
How did you do it though? Like, was it networking? Was it, there was obviously talent there, but how were you able to make that jump?
I think it was a little bit of networking for sure. I interned at CBS, the Orlando station. So I had somewhat of a contact with these people here in Orlando. And so when it was time, when I had put in my 2 years, I was able to send the tapes over and be like, "Hey, remember me, the intern from, whatever." I was bugging everybody, and there were other interns there when I was interning, and they just sat around, and they didn't do anything. They were just getting their credits, because of course you get credits for internships. And so they were just not doing anything. And I just remember being like, what's wrong with these people? Like, how are you going to get a job if you don't have a demo reel? And how are you going to get a demo reel if you don't hound people to let you go out with them on the scene and hound the photographers to help you out? I mean, it's not easy hounding people. It's embarrassing. And yeah, I was just hustling, and I cared, but it didn't matter to me if it was embarrassing, and you had to humble yourself and swallow your pride and beg people to help you. And then eventually when you come to where you've been trying to go, you look back and you're like, well, I'm not so embarrassed now, am I? Collecting that big paycheck. So you just hustle. That's all. You just have to hustle harder than everyone else around you, pretty much. And I always did that, always.
I think that's so important in any creative field that you're in. And a lot of people think there's such thing as overnight success because they don't see the hustle in the background that went on, but it exists, and people are putting in the time and effort and hitting that pavement hard every day.
Every day. And that's the other thing. People are like, hit it hard, hit it hard, hit it hard. And then you get sick of it. You get tired, you get discouraged, you have a setback, whatever it is. And that's when a lot of people get weeded out. And the ones who rise to the top are the ones who get back up after a loss, and keep going, even though there's not like any real reason to keep going. And, those are the ones who make it, really. And you also have to have talent. You can't just hustle your way to the top. Unfortunately, it should be just hard work that matters, but it's not. You have to have the talent, the drive, and the perseverance to where you don't give up when things get hard. and you're able to just have grit. A lot of people don't have grit these days.
Well, because social media exists, right? So we don't think we need it. We just think we can just post things on social media and go viral and become famous.
No, and it doesn't work like that. You might be famous for 15 minutes, but the real long lasting, success is people, and a lot of these younger people do not have the grit. You need to be able to live on $19,000 a year and swallow your pride and just do it and just shut up about it. I'm so sick of hearing everybody come, I can't live off 20,000 a year, whatever your first job may pay out of college. Who's going to take a job for, now it'll be like, I can't take a job for $35,000 a year. And I just want to slap them and be like, you have no leg to stand on right now. Like you take what you get and you go from there. And it's, to even hear people talk like that straight out of college, trying to get into show business, it's just like, okay, if you're graduating with an accounting degree, maybe you can hustle, for a little bit more money because you're going to have different options because it's accounting, and people need that. People don't need another person trying to get into show business. They don't. We have 1,000 of them for every one job available. So it's like you take what you can get to get your foot in the door. I would have worked for free, to come back home to Orlando. I would have worked for free. I would have worked for a very small stipend just to come home. And in my internship, I wanted this Orlando internship so bad while I was in college that I commuted 2 hours every day, every single day.
So did you have your career planned out? Did you know taking that internship that you were hoping to open doors to come back to work for them full time?
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, how am I going to get my foot in the door if they've never even seen me? Whereas as an intern, not only was I doing what I had to do to get the internship, but then while there, I made it impossible not to see me. And people noticed me as an intern. Oh yeah, that intern, Laura. I was always hustling to get them whatever story they needed to break. I remember when, this was back when, do you remember when the beheadings were happening all the time in the Middle East?
Mm-hmm, yes.
It was when, oh my gosh, the terrorist thing started to become a big deal. And these beheadings were happening on, Al Jazeera TV. Yeah. And so they would do these beheadings live on the internet. And the news stations would try and figure out, they had to figure out which website it was happening on because it wasn't just common knowledge. And so I was able to have a boyfriend of mine hack in and figure out which website it was. And of course I came and I was the savior and I had the website and we all sat around and watched a beheading live.
Wow. And how did that impact you?
Oh, it was awful. I mean, but then it also, again, it gave me grit. It gave me the tools to be able to handle very heavy, very real things that I was going to have to deal with on a daily basis as a journalist anyway. So why would I shy away from it as an intern if I knew this is the career I've chosen is watching a beheading? I mean, that's just what I have signed up for. I've had to deal with rapes, murders, child abuse, had to look child abusers in the eye and talk to them and try to remain impartial. These are things that I signed up for.
Out of all of those, what's the worst? What's the one that gave you the biggest creeps?
It was probably the child abusers. Whenever you get the news on TV or in print, you're usually just hearing what is allowed to be reported, and unfortunately the person writing it or reporting it on TV has heard 10 times more than you're hearing. So we have to go through the police reports and read every sordid, disgusting, disturbing detail. And that's hard to go home after a full day of that. And then just go home and just be a regular person, who wants to go to happy hour and get drinks,
Yeah. So how did you cope with it? What were your coping mechanisms?
I've never had coping mechanisms. Never. I've always been a hot mess, and I've drank heavily always. And, to be honest, I coped with drugs and alcohol, and I've had a really hard time with that.
Yeah. So I actually read your blog too, and you had mentioned that you were sober. You said, did you start drinking before you became a TV reporter, or was that a byproduct of what you were seeing?
I was always a heavy drinker. Mm-hmm. Yeah, always. Even before I became a reporter in college, of course, even in high school, I was drinking. So, I mean, I think I've always had a drinking issue. I'm more of a binge drinker than an everyday drinker. And when, as a reporter, it just was exacerbated by a million to come home after one of those child abuser stories or whatever. And then you can't turn your mind off. So I would just drink. and then pass out and then wake up and do it all over again, and have to hear about some other awful story. And after doing that so after Louisiana, I got a job in Orlando, and I was there for 4 years, and it was the same thing, just a bigger paycheck, so it was the same awful stuff every single day. And as the drinking got worse, and, the pills to go to sleep, pills to wake up in the morning because you had taken a pill to go to sleep, you just have to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, can I maintain this my whole life? And of course, the answer was an overwhelming no. You can't live like that. And I even had a phone interview with CNN at one point, and I had to tell them no, thank you for the second one.
And was that just because you were done?
So because my ultimate goal was always, even from a child, was to be on CNN. That was it. I wanted to live in New York and be on CNN. And once I got a phone interview with CNN and I didn't want it, that's when I knew I was done. Yeah. I mean, that was my goal for 20 years. And all of a sudden, here it is right in front of me. And it was kind of the last thing I actually wanted. And I was like, all right, I think this career is over for me.
So something else you had mentioned is that you had moved up really quickly. And you were really young. So do you feel like if you had done it again, maybe 5 or 10 years later, you would have had a different reaction?
No, I mean, I don't think there's ever any good age to hear and immerse yourself in that kind of topic. I was 24 when I made it to like a top 30 market on TV. So I was so young, 24 years old, and I was a news anchor in Orlando, Florida. It was just crazy. I was the youngest in my newsroom by a mile, and other people hated me because of it. And a lot of the other anchors and reporters just thought, I just got it because I was a Latina, or because I would take lower pay than they would because I was so young, or whatever their reasons that they thought I got it. And so it was tough to be hated by everybody.
Yeah. And how did you defend yourself, or did you not?
I didn't. I really didn't.
No.
I would hear about things that people would say behind my back. And I thought, the best revenge is living well. And, I'm on the anchor desk and they're not. I'm on the anchor desk having to toss questions to them out in the middle of a hurricane. So that was my revenge. The same people that were talking crap were the ones out, waiting for the perp to walk into the jail. And I'm over here like, tell me, how's it going out there? So it's like in my head, I could be like, yeah, that's right, because you're out there and I'm in here.
Did you ever think that once you made it to that level, you were in Orlando, you were at a news reporter, anchor, I mean, you had a really coveted job. Did you ever think race was going to play an issue? I
knew that people were always, no matter whether it did help me or not, I knew that people were going to think it did. So, Laura Diaz, who's Hispanic, who this employer is able to check off on their, what is it, EEOC or whatever, their quotas for affirmative action and all that. I knew that people were going to assume that that's why I got a better chance than they did in their mind. So I wouldn't let it bother me, because whether they did, look at me as a token or not didn't matter to me, because here I am. So I can't sit here and wonder, why I got to where I got as fast as I did, because I'm going to say it was talent and grit and all the things I told you about. And they're going to be able to say something else to feel better about how not far along they are in their career.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way to look at it.
For somebody to assume that somehow your race helped you ascend in your career is so incredibly diminishing and condescending, because you're now completely taking away all of the hard work I've put in.
Yes.
You're taking away everything I've done that you haven't done to get here. And you're completely putting me in one little, Latina box, and that's it. That's the end of that. And that's why you can't get further ahead. Okay. If that's what you need to say to yourself to accept the fact that you're a complete loser, then say it. I don't care if that's what you have to say. Here's the reality. I speak Spanish. You don't, so it's like all of these, people who didn't speak Spanish hating on me was such a joke to me, because guess who they would call when there was a story and there was only Spanish speakers on the scene? They called me, and I had to go out there and help them translate their interview because they couldn't do it. And so it's like, I would just look them right in the face and be like, oh, you need me because there's a skill that you don't have and you can't properly do your job without me. Okay. Just making sure that we know exactly what's going on right now.
And then you decided one day you didn't want to do it anymore. So, and you said something around the fact of like another 10 years and you didn't want to be too far in your career to make a switch. So what happened at that moment?
Yeah. I was 28 years old. And I was ready to get out of TV news. I was done. I was like, okay. And I'm a very extreme person, as you could probably tell. And so I looked at my husband. I was a newlywed. We just got married. And I said, I can't do this anymore. And I'm willing to work at a nonprofit. I had been volunteering my time at a couple of nonprofits that I really believed in. And I said to him, I'm ready to work there for $30,000 a year or whatever they pay people who work at nonprofits. I was like, I'm ready to work there because it fulfills me. And it gives me purpose and I feel life and when I'm there helping people and I'm good at it than to help this station here that, is doing nothing but scaring people every night for no reason.
You left the news and then this is what I heard, and I don't know how much of this is true. You were in Orlando and there's a radio show called Johnny's House and you heard they were looking for someone. So without knowing anyone really there to connect with or network, you sent Johnny an email and said, can I come join your radio show? Is that true?
Yeah, I knew nothing about the people who worked on the radio show, but I thought, wow, they talk about, bad dates and stuff. And I thought, hey, that would be a way easier subject matter to talk about on a daily basis than what I was doing. And I thought it's somewhat media related. It's radio, not TV, but hey, it's all the same, really. At the end of the day, it's show business. And so I actually sent the host of the show a tweet, to be honest with you. And I was drunk. I was really drunk. Big shocker. And I was at the end of my rope at my current job. And I sent him a tweet and he sent a tweet back. And then, it went back and forth via email. And he said, oh, you have a current job. I said, I'm quitting anyway. I told him, I was like, I'm on my way to quit. So don't worry about that. And I put in my letter of resignation into my job. And they were like, I don't think so. You're not going anywhere. And I basically begged them. And they made me wait a whole week, 7 days to sleep on it because my general manager said that I wasn't thinking straight. And then I had to actually quit because of contractual reasons. I had to quit and have no job, just to audition for the radio job. So I quit without knowing if I had the radio job.
That's scary.
Yeah. But I knew, again, in life, you have to take giant risks if you're expecting to be any kind of success. You cannot, things just don't fall into your lap. You have to risk a lot. And so I did it. I risked it and it worked out. I auditioned. It was very smooth. My last day on TV was a Friday and my first day in radio was that Monday.
Wow, that's fast.
Yeah.
So what was the audition? You just had to go in for a couple hours?
I had to go on air. And I had to go live on the air with them. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. And to see if there was any chemistry and everything else, I had to be live on air. Could I talk on the radio? Could I be interesting? Could I be funny? Could I be any of these things? Because being a news anchor is not funny. And no. It's not interesting. And a lot of these news anchors are very stuffy and boring and just too buttoned up, and to be on the radio, you just have to be loose and fun and be able to talk about things that are uncomfortable sometimes, like sex and, whatever it is. And so I was just able to just do that right away.
So how is it being on the radio in the sense that you're like you're a big personality in Orlando, a celebrity, and I'm sure you get trolls. How do you handle the trolls?
Oh, I don't give a rat's ass about them. I mean, not even in the least. I've had everything. So in TV, they're way worse. They insult your looks. They insult everything, your voice. They insult everything in TV. So by the time I got to radio, it's like, oh, bring it on.
So like when you became a TV reporter, there was like a lot of people saying you were there because you were Hispanic. Did you ever feel that you were looked down upon because of your gender or your race in radio?
Of course. Yeah. Same thing. It was just like, oh, they needed the Hispanic. They needed the, and they still, radio is like everyone wants the Hispanic on the show because there's such a huge Hispanic population in Orlando. So I wouldn't, if someone even said that, I wouldn't even argue with them, to be honest. I would just be like, no, you're probably right. And wow, lucky for me, huh? Like sucks to be you, because I'm more valuable than you are.
Yeah.
And that's it, and I can't help my race. I can't, and I look, quote unquote, look very white girl, like, blonde, blue eyes, very, very fair skin. So I've kind of been in a weird gender crisis. I mean, not gender.
I was like, wait, is there something you haven't told me, Laura?
Yeah, right. No, I'm transitioning. No, I've been in an identity crisis for my whole life where it's like, am I like super white girl American or am I Hispanic? I don't know, because my parents like roast pigs in the backyard in a big pit, with an apple in its mouth, which is super Puerto Rican. But then, I was born in Orlando and like, I just have nothing but white girl friends. So it was just always like this weird, where do I belong? Always, my whole life. I never really belonged anywhere, which actually I think really made an advantage for me because I was able to just be I could adapt so quickly to different surroundings and different situations.
So what other challenges do you feel like you have faced in your creative journey?
God, probably the biggest one was becoming a mother, for sure. When you're in showbiz and you're like, okay, you have to be this hot thing that's always relevant and always, on top of everything. You have to look good. You have to be cool. Guys have to be with you and girls have to want to be you. And it's just like this weird place when all you really want to do is go home in your sweatpants, eat bonbons and, feed your baby, like you just want to be a mom, a brand new mom, especially being a new mom. That was so hard. And the schedule is very difficult. I have to be at work at 4 a.m. every day. So that's really hard. It's also really hard trying to move up and trying to create an even bigger career for myself and my family when you're a mom, because then that takes more time away from your kids. So that's the biggest challenge.
Was that a deciding factor? Like when you were going to have your first child, were you thinking about that? Like, will it impact my career growth?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I knew it would. And then I had a second child and I knew that was going to be even harder. But now that I'm done having kids, I think, okay, well, Laura, you're a feminist. You're a big advocate for equal rights. You have to be okay with giving your husband the home control, and you have to be okay with your husband being there for them and you being the working party. And so I think it was just so hard for me. It's so funny. I preach it, but I couldn't live it. And he's a stay-at-home dad. He takes care of the school lunches. He goes to the PTA meetings. He does everything that traditionally the mom would do. And it was hard for me to switch those roles.
So how do you feel like all these experiences that you've had through your career have helped shaped you?
Obviously, just incredibly. I've had so much success over my span of my career that actually now that I'm in a point where I'm trying to see what's next, what's my next move, career-wise, I want to, have my own show, my own female-led show. And now I'm scared. I'm scared that I won't be able to do it. I'm scared that I'll somehow figure out a way to do it and then fail at it. I'm scared that, this might be the end of the road for me. Like maybe I'm just at a point where I have to get out and just be a regular person, God forbid.
It's funny to hear you say fail though, because you sound so confident. And what I know of you, you're such a confident person. Why would you be scared that you would fail?
Because I've never failed. And so I think that, and my husband was even like saying, he's like, God, Laura, you've just never failed. And so I think you're so scared. I'm like, no, he's exactly right. There's never been something I've put my mind to in life and haven't done it. And so, and haven't seen it through and been successful at it. So I think I'm just so scared to take the next step in my career because I'm older now. I have 2 kids now. I have a lot more to lose now. And I've never had anything to lose before. So I was able to take really crazy risks. And so I'm in a weird point right now because of so much success one after another, it's actually put me in a place where I'm paralyzed with fear of not continuing my streak.
So what advice do you have for our listeners?
Take the fear and the haters and all of the doubt that you have on yourself and that other people have on you and just channel it, like figure out a way to channel the fear into something that will get you closer to your goal, and that's what I'm currently trying to do. So we'll see how it works out. But for sure, I would say my haters and my doubters all my life have completely fueled me.
Let's transition into the lightning round. So the lightning round is I'm going to ask you 5 questions, rapid fire, and just tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Okay, question 1, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Ignore the haters.
Number 2, who is your biggest advocate?
My husband.
Question 3, who inspires you and why?
My husband, because he's so nice and I don't know how to be that way. He's so compassionate. I'm not that. He puts up with me. I'm a basket case, and he's very forgiving and empathetic, all things that I don't have. Mm-hmm. So he inspires me to be a better person, and I inspire him to stop being so lazy. So it's a perfect match.
What's a habit that's helped you on your journey?
Doing it when you don't want to.
And then what do you want your legacy to be?
That I was unapologetic.
I love that. I love that coming from a strong female person. I love that.
Don't apologize for anything.
So if our listeners want to find out more about you or get in touch, how can they do that, Laura?
I have all social medias. My email is faceofafeminist@gmail.com. But I have a website, faceofafeminist.com. On there, faceofafeminist.com, you can find my podcasts. There's a podcast page. There's a contact me page. So pretty much everything on faceofafeminist.com.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Laura, thank you so much for coming in today.
You're so welcome, Shireen. You're the best.
Hey, before you hit pause, did you find this episode helpful and enjoyable? If so, could you leave an Apple Podcast, aka iTunes review? It'll take you less than 1 minute and mean the world to me. The more ratings and reviews the show gets, the more people are able to find this podcast. If you're unsure how to leave a review, no worries. If you're on your iPhone or iPad, go to the homepage of this show and scroll down to Write a Review. Click on it and you'll be able to rate and review the show. If you're on a Mac, from iTunes, go to the show homepage and on the top, click Ratings and Reviews. Also, please subscribe to get the latest episodes once they drop. If you enjoyed the episode and know someone who would love it, please share. From your iPhone, click on the icon with 3 dots and then share via social media, email, or text. If you want to hear more, head over to funnybrown.com/podcast. You can also find me online. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Funny Brown Girl. Also, sign up for my free newsletter for more tips to advance your creative journey at funnybrowngirl.com/subscribe. And again, if you enjoyed the show, do me a favor and subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. Now, go flex your creative muscle and keep winning. Thank you for listening. See you next week.